Dr. Johnson said a ship was a prison with a chance of being drowned. But this ship takes the sea out of seafaring. Up close, Queen Elizabeth II is overwhelming. Long as a street, tall as a skyscraper, far too big to see. And this Leviathan's no longer just a liner in the classic transatlantic tradition, but a resort hotel that follows the sun. You relax, they move the scenery. And should any resident of this floating city ever smell the ocean, they come in and fix the air conditioning. From Papeete, the capital of Tahiti, where the crew of that other cruising ship, the Bounty, mutinied, we're about to experience what's planned as a far more peaceful adventure, the ultimate cruise. And already we seem to have some of the ingredients for a jolly voyage. Once aboard, one of the many attractions of a holiday with a new horizon every day is that it doesn't much matter where the ship goes. As soon as the anchor's raised and the human chemistry within starts to react, an unreal shipboard life with a new and different perspective takes over. In mid-Pacific, floating free, we're remote from all things usual. Hard to realize this vast place, 13 stories high and a fifth of a mile long, is right now pushing through the South Seas at 30 miles an hour. Underway, the QE2 is no longer just the largest liner the world's ever likely to see, but a sort of spaceship of the 60s without actually being supersonic. We're not sailing away, we're gliding into orbit. In our Star Trek, the whole future world, strange yet familiar, and just the way we've seen it on the screen. At the controls, Big Brother, quietly masterful. The distant hum of mysterious machinery. Those confident voices dispensing authority from the ceiling down long and curious corridors.
At the present time,
the clean-cut crew. At any moment, Mr. Spock will be beamed up. This flagship of the world's cruising fleet, now a Falklands veteran, is sailing round the Pacific on her annual 3-month winter voyage, while 1,000 crew set the scene for 1,400 passengers, some of them living in space-age splendor. Seafaring's come quite a long way since the hammock. But all passengers, even those in the most humble 100-pound-a-day staterooms on lower decks, are invited to the major event of the ship's social calendar. For much of a cruiser's day is spent changing clothes and dressing up or down. And this is very up, the captain's party. Like the first day at school, we've been separated from all that's familiar and dumped among hundreds of strangers from a dozen lands. The master, who's receiving us, I almost said headmaster, the captain is always a jolly, avuncular man straight out of central casting.
Mr. Ray? Mr. Cunningham?
Captain Robert Arnott is a holiday version of Jack Hawkins and those other gold-braided masters with whom we've served upon the cruel sea. Though these days, he needs to be a jovial glad-hander as familiar with the stick mic as the ship's compass. He conducts the church service on Sundays, but as his ship sails under British law, he can't actually marry anyone. An escape clause for which some masculine heartstoppers may have cause to be thankful. For in this captive congregation, available men are far outnumbered by a watchful and bejeweled regiment, and every cruiser has a different approach.
It's wonderful.
Is it?
It's wonderful.
No, it's dull. It's boring.
boring and the champagne's warm. Oh, no, it's not dull. I love to see all these people dressed up.
Well, you two have got to get your act together, obviously.
I tell the truth. I was on the Canberra at Christmas and there were such a ruffle.
Yes, you mean tonight?
No.
No dancing girls? The only interesting man is Mr. Bernard with the two girls.
Where is he?
To me,
Where is he?
that is fun.
He's the most interesting man because he's not conceited like what I like Dr. Bernardus. He's a very conceited man.
But he's got two girls with him, and I haven't.
Are you not married yet? Are you not married, Alan?
No, nobody's asked me.
Well, I'm asking you now. I'm free.
You really are disappointed, are you? I'm sorry to hear that.
No, tonight.
Oh, just tonight?
Oh, I think it's marvellous. Yes, tonight is a little dull.
Well, I don't know. You're surrounded by good-looking
Oh, it's lovely. All these ladies all dressed up in these beautiful clothes. No, not to me. It's not dull.
It needs something. I don't know what it is. It needs a bit
You don't think it's a love boat? That's what you're complaining about.
I don't want to love it. Thank you.
Well, when we were on the Canberra at Christmas, we had the senior radio officer on our dining table, and when I mentioned the love boat, he got up and went.
When I make a reservation, I always say no officers, please.
Well, I don't say anything because nobody ever asks me, so...
Listen, your champagne's getting hot. You better deliver that. However, as in Noah's Ark, most of the passengers arrived in pairs, and to greet them, Captain Bob adopts the royal stiff arm and limp handshake, steering the respectful along his receiving line. Indeed, dressed-up ladies have been known to curtsy, and tycoons who could buy the ship several times over anxiously await his invitations. So for some, the appeal of this unlikely environment must be the chance to experience that American birthright, life, liberty, and the happiness of pursuit. For others, I suppose, it's the shipmate you spot. Isn't that Ruby Keeler in the White Mink, Broadway star of the tap-dancing 30s? Golly gosh. And surely that's Lord and Lady Litchfield, and so it goes. Then there's all the attention, the champagne, even if it is warm and Australian, and above all, the friendly turbulence of an endless house party which is attempting to amuse us as it glides around the world. This is what cruising is about. And so, of course, is this. The QE2 drops anchor at Moorea, the island where they filmed South Pacific, and beneath its jagged volcanic peaks, passengers abandon ship, answering the call of the mythical mountain of Bali High. I stayed on board to consider the mythical call of cruising with Anne Brooks, a Beverly Hills widow who sailed on every one of the QE2's world cruises.
I've been on 9. This is the 9th one.
And always in this cabin?
Always in this cabin for the past 5 years. On board the QE2, it's like being on your own satellite here on Earth. And I feel that you are cushioned in comfort and really away from the problems of the world. They're there, but you're orbiting all by yourself.
Yes. Is it that there's is it a surrogate family? Because now you're so well known, you know all the members of the crew, the captain is a good friend of yours, all the senior officers are your friends.
I think you could call it a surrogate family. I think they do everything but burp you. No, I just like the ship. She's a very special lady.
Stay in this position, bent knee position. Push back. That's it. Push forward and back. Why is everybody laughing? And back.
While some push forward and back in a good cause, others face up to the remarkable range of shipboard activity, instruction and entertainment. For any passenger ready to have a go, every day is a challenge.
Good. And you can moan and groan because it feels hard. Show your appreciation. You should go harder too. Over the rod. That's it. That's good. And then come on down the spine. Walk those heads. No, don't.
Cruisers, mainly American on this leg of the journey, can learn about everything from the experts. Sir Edmund Hillary tells them how to climb Mount Everest, and in a theatre seating 500, a psychiatrist considers a more pressing problem.
I want to live. How long? Forever. You'll hear people say, when I'm 90, I don't care if I'm dead. That's just the way you feel until you're 89. That's why people buy Carter's Little Liver Pills. You know about the woman who'd been taking Carter's Little Liver Pills for over 20 years. And when she died, they had to beat her liver to death with a stick. 2, I want a feeling of importance. Prestige, power, respect. We all want that. That's why we say, who do you think you're talking to? And that's what makes people brag and show off. One girl was comparing a sweater she bought with a friend. She said, my sweater is 100% virgin wool. Her friend said, well, what if mine's had a little experience?
Now, what about the passengers, the people on board?
I find them rather Dullsville, if you really want to know.
Yes, yes. How do they compare with all the other cruises you've done?
I think they're not as interesting. I think they're not as much fun. They're not as communicative, let's say, as people in the past have been.
What about age?
I think the age level has lowered somehow.
Really? Really?
From what I see, or maybe it's because I've aged. Don't put that in the thing.
The policemen look young, don't they? It's maddening. Yeah.
I mean, no, but it's true. I think there are more younger people in proportion.
Really?
I wonder what the median age is.
Oh, I thought it was pretty high, but there.
Well, it is,
but
I would think it would be about 70 or in low 70s. But the fact remains, there are still a lot of young-looking people.
You must have been on some extraordinary cruises.
I don't think it's young, but it could be worse.
They can spare from their lives and their bank accounts anything up to 96 days and £140,000 for this one holiday must be successful, and so probably of a certain age. Of course, you can book only one leg of this 3-month cruise. You can share an inside cabin on a lower deck, but it's still hard to achieve such a life on the ocean wave for less than £100 a day. So why does a cruiser cruise?
Because I'm a lazy bastard, you know. I don't want to travel. I don't want to be bothered with airplanes, with waiting, with being in the line. I don't like that. And this is a perfect solution. You don't see the world because you don't see the world. Forget it. It's being like in a movie. You just see the world pass in front of you without packing, without moving, without doing anything. You're just happy in the ship, being taken care of, pampered. And I enjoy it. I have a good time every place I go.
What do you do all day? I don't see you.
I don't know why I do anything, but I have no time to do anything else. I bought 5 books. I read 1 page of one book. I bought my address book to copy. I'm as far as the letter A, halfway. I haven't finished letter A yet. And I've been here already, 40 days, 45 days.
And you've got another
30 days. Or 27, something like that.
Oh, with any luck. And if the weather stays bad, you might get to B.
I don't know what I'm going to do, but I like it.
But before he gets to the next page of that address book, he'll face a lot of South Seas distraction that can be all too beguiling. The QE2 is so fast that even on this voyage round the Pacific, which covers 1/3 of the globe, there's rarely more than a day or two between ports. Rarotonga, capital of the Cook Islands, is a happy part of Polynesia still excited by tourists. For only a few cruise ships arrive here, each bringing its huddled masses yearning for a good lay. Properly arranged, of course. Cruisers who do want to see the world ashore and feel like a quick forced feeding can always buy excursions in which, one way or another, they're ferried in digestible groups to all the best places where American Express does nicely.
Group D, are you? Good morning, good morning. Group D, please. Group D. Group D, please. Group D. D, anybody D?
Somebody left chewing gum on. Oh, dear Lord.
Good morning, good morning. Group D upstairs, please. Group D upstairs. you D? Group D?
Yeah.
Right upstairs, please.
Where?
Upstairs, my dear. Good morning. Are you D? Upstairs, dear.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
What have we got here? We've got rampants. How did you know that this is rampants? All right, I'll have one of each. Yeah, one of each. Why not? Two of them.
The dancing's indoors in this heat, so cruisers turn their backs upon the South Pacific and those romantic silver beaches that first beckoned to them in the Cunard sales brochure.
First of all, if you like cards, backgammon, Scrabble, checkers or chess, then you should meet in the card room where a member of the crew staff will effect introductions. And also, if you're sailing alone and you want to meet some new friends, then the casino hideaway is where you should be, where a member of the crew staff will be there also effecting introductions.
Step, replace, side, close, side, and a side, close, side. Step, replace. A side, close, side.
Because there are so many women passengers, cruise ships employ a social staff to ensure that even the loneliest lady will be asked to dance quite often.
2, 3, 4. Back, replace. A side, close, side, and a forward, close, forward. Back, replace. Side, close, side. Forward, close, forward.
Cunard Bluecoats get a daily allowance of $10 added to their pay and 60% off their drinks bill. And they put in a long day on their poor old feet. But needless to say, not every partner's satisfied.
In the past, there were more guys to dance with than there are now. I mean,
Well, they were the sort of professional dancers.
Well, they were the social staff, which were hired just to be on this cruise.
But they've still got these blue
No, but they're
now.
mostly cruise staff who are on the ship all the time and have been switched over to do that job in the evening.
To dance?
To dance.
Yes.
I remember the first year I was on, there was a guy who was charming, and when he was asked what his job was, it was to smile and dance eternally. And that was the job. But there's nobody here now dancing eternally. That's the problem.
Oh.
I don't think it's being, that's part of it is being run as well as it has been in the past. I really don't. And I think that then they've got a young boys as against they had, mature men. The old ladies want somebody to dance with that they can talk to, not people who are their grandchildren practically.
That's a point. And even as dancers, they're not so hot, I notice. Huh?
No, they're not. They're not. How are you?
I'm terrific.
Oh, good. Well, maybe I'll get one sometime then. A dancer, I mean.
Side, close, side. Back, replace. Side, close, side. Forward, close, forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. Side, close, side. Side, close, side. And back to replace. Side, close, side. Side, close, side. Back, replace. Side, close, side. Forward, close, forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. Side, close, side. Now you can turn. Back, replace. Side, close, side. Side, close, side. Back, replace.
The rarest commodity on a ship like this, of course, is a single man travelling alone who actually likes to dance.
You know what I like?
You could probably earn your fare.
I've been trying to, but nobody wants to engage. They want to engage me. They think I'm too old. The old ladies, I think they're fantastic. You see, those old ladies, they go to the dance class every day, and they dance all night. And they make little eyes for you to dance with them. So I'm very successful at that with 85 years old. Let me tell you, they dance very well. And they're cute old ladies. And they pamper themselves and beautifully dressed every night. They're very happy. She's a lady that's just unbelievable because she's exactly the opposite of what the dancer should be. She's short and fat, but she's the best dancer on board. And she must be, I don't know how many years. I have no, probably 95 or 6. I have no idea.
It's being a single man, that's what it is, with a plethora of single ladies.
It's marvelous. Marvelous. You have nothing to do with them. You do what you like to do. You dance, you play around, you do joke. And you don't have to take them home. You don't have to take a cab and ride a limousine to take them home because it's raining. When you're through with them, you're through with them. Good night, and you go.
Now your husband has died, regrettably.
Yes.
You're travelling alone.
I am.
As a widow for the first time.
Right.
How does a lonely lady manage?
Well, the entertainment is wonderful. If you care to just get your little program and look, you'll find the entertainment. You can be busy all day.
enjoy myself every minute.
See, as a single lady, there's quite a lot of competition on board, isn't there?
Oh, yes.
You tend to outnumber the single men.
But don't forget, I've been with people really all my working life, and I know how to enjoy myself with people. I dance a lot, enjoy Joel Loss. My goodness, you can't get better. And there's 12 hosts there, all just ready and willing to dance with you. And it's good night, and that's it.
While bluecoats dance attendants, the whitecoats are also on parade. The ship's senior officers dutifully preside over their tables, steering the conversation, living up to their image.
To begin with, it was quite a strain. I mean, my very, very first dinner I ever had to host, my knees were shaking, and the lady opposite me was a sort of silver-haired, or peroxide-haired, sort of Lauren Bacall, with a deep baritone voice, and my seat was barely warm when she cross-questioned me and said,
you married?
Doctor, do you enjoy it here? Have you been here very long? And tell me one more thing. Have you left home? Have you left behind at home some very deep and emotional problem?
I think love is where you find it. I don't think particularly that it's aboard here. I know it hasn't been for me, and I'm very eligible. No. Most of the people on here are retired. I would prefer somebody extremely active.
I have to ask you this. I mean, are you looking for romance on this ship?
No. I had that already, and I don't think I could beat the one I had. So I'll just give that a miss. I mean, if something great comes along, I'm ready. But no, I'm well-adjusted old lady.
But you're looking for a bit of fun. That's the point. A bit of jollity.
That's it. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
I didn't want to stay in New York doing freezing to death all winter. So I thought, I'll get on the old Queen. I call it the friggin' frigate.
Separated from all the familiar artifacts of their identity, like homes and friends and jobs, cruisers thrown into this international mishmash sometimes find it hard to identify the financial and social status of the people from the next cabin, the next table. So they gather in territories where they feel most secure. At bingo games, in the casino, on bar stools, or at the nightly round of parties. While they were thus distracted in their chosen ways, the QE2 has left the warmth of tropic seas and sailed south towards New Zealand. 90 feet above the waterline, up on the bridge, the Morning Watch has spied a welcoming yacht in a most unwelcome position, dead ahead, and clearly convinced that even a tiny sail takes precedence over an enormous head of steam.
Provided he's sensible, he'll get out of the way and the situation shouldn't develop. But if he starts to become a little too close for comfort, then we'll honk the horn and wake him up.
But they're looking round at the moment.
Well, we're going to port, so we'll just confirm it to him.
He's replied already.
There we are. Well, that confirms it, and that takes any heat out of the situation and keeps him in a safe position.
The Auckland pilot comes on board.
Cameras 210. 210.
Steer 210.
So the pilot.
Good afternoon to you. I've got very nice weather for us. Yes, I'm sorry about that.
A little bit out of my control.
The pilot, Jim Varney, now has to park 67,000 tons of floating hotel at a quayside in the heart of his hometown without scratching the paintwork or pulling up 1 foot out of place. The QE2's exterior line is still beautiful, though down below, after endless alterations, she can look like a vast American hotel in Miami Georgian style. But up on the bridge, my only decor disappointment's the ship's wheel, which is not at all like Captain Ahab's. Indeed, it's so insignificant a visiting schoolboy once carried it away as a souvenir, and for a while they had to steer the ship with a screwdriver. But today all is in place and familiar and reassuring.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
All yours.
Thank you, sir.
Both engines moving to stern.
Thank you. Stop engines, sir.
Stop engines.
How's that, tugs? We should be manageable now. Are you managing to get any pressure on your lines?
Well, you're still too fast, Jim. We'll be hitting each other. We start pulling back.
Okay.
Tearing all over the place, eh?
All right, slower stern too.
Tension on the bridge is heightened by the arrival of the owner, or to be precise, the chairman of the Trafalgar House conglomerate, Nigel Brokes, on board for a couple of weeks with his wife Joyce.
Money wouldn't buy this sort of facility to be able to say to the customer, this is part of the group.
Yes, absolutely. The setting, I mean, who would not? Who wouldn't? Even Prime Ministers leave with invitations to come on board. Yes, yes. It's the ultimate... there's a terrific crowd. Yes, even though it's just after dawn, cold and wet and miserable, Aucklanders turn out to welcome the QE2 on her arrival downtown in New Zealand's biggest city.
Head slowest ahead port, engine. Head slow ahead port. Stop starboard.
Stop after 2 tugs. Stop after 2 tugs. Yeah, let it come ahead at the same time.
Three, please.
Three, Roger.
Keep heaving on that headline, so I don't want to use the engines if we can help it. Moving nicely.
What is the rough estimation at the moment?
We think 10 feet. Have we all stopped everything?
Yes, all stopped.
I had to scrape your paintwork after all this.
Oh, no, only just touched.
Looking good, Jim, looking good.
Right, she's coming right up to the flag, Mike, so stop, Tahiti-Wellington. Right, in position, sir.
In position, good.
On off, gangway in position.
Stop all tugs, that's excellent. Athol, I think
she is, she's all
you should just keep her away. Yes. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you very much. Very good job. Thank you very much.
When cruising, the QE2 becomes a one-class ship, though the position and price of your cabin does decide where you eat. One of the restaurants seats 850, another more than 600, and there are 2 prestigious grill rooms. Passengers in the penthouses use this Queen's Bar and Grill, once past its watchful guardian.
Good evening, Gerald.
Though in all of them, the menus are the same, the service and the attention is not. Among the displays tonight, some emeralds too enormous not to be real. They're noticeable enough to send even passengers who've seen it all into something of a tizzy. Amid such opulence, such commercial success, and knowing how much money's changed hands, it's hard to appreciate there's a depression in the shipping world. That in the last 8 years, the British merchant fleet's almost halved. Yet tonight, 82 of these international liners are cruising somewhere in the world and filling their 60,000 berths. To cater for those who want to cruise, 5 new liners will be launched within the next couple of years. Aboard this buoyant Waldorf Astoria, 1,000 purposeful men and women pamper 1,400 international guests. Yet life can seem as isolated and far from everyday reality as Mr. Spock and those other ships that flow through space. However, passengers can be quite down to earth. Consider the business that put Pat and Lil Ahern on board.
Rubbish disposal.
Yes. So there's a bit of cash in rubbish, is there?
Well, there's not a lot of sausage and mash because most of it is all check size.
It is.
Checks. Oh, for those bounce at times.
Still, there's enough for a few world cruises, it seems.
Well, I think what it is, the world cruising didn't. You see, I didn't go cruise. You know, I had no holidays before. You say 1978. I used to send my wife away, and of course my children. I was just managed to get my children to say, "Will you go away with Mum and I'll look after the business, and that satisfied my wife for about 25 years. That was all right.
Yeah.
Then one day she decided that, she said to me, you've never been away with me, Pat, it's about time you come away with me, or else.
You laid the law down.
Or else, yes.
So from that day on I started cruising.
Yes.
But you're an active sort of man. This is the most relaxing type of holiday. How do you feel about 96 days with nothing to do?
Well, it's hard. It's very hard. I've just started now. I said to my wife the other day, look, love, I'm getting homesick a little bit. Yeah. Read a book, Pat. Well, I've never read a book since I left school. Never had a chance to read a book. And I thought to myself, well, I'll go to the library and get a book. And I said to the lady, I told the truth, I said, I've never read a book. And she said, well, look, try this, Mr. Ayo. It was called The Patriot. And I persevered and I read it. And I enjoyed it. And then I went to the library again and got another book with 400 pages.
And starting reading now.
You've changed his life for
Yes.
And so I find that reading is helped to relax me a lot. And
now, what do you do? How does your day progress here?
Well, the day progresses by me getting up very early, then coming back.
What time?
Oh, as I say, about 6. The way the captain messes about with the clock, it was 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, do you?
Yeah.
But you get up. You don't really need a clock to get up when you're an active, like 4 o'clock man in the morning. You wake up automatically. If I get up at 4, I very likely go now. I go into the toilet and have a couple of cigars because Mum don't like me smoking. And then when about 6 o'clock, I go on top deck when the officers are coming off from the night duty, when they come for a fresh air and sit up there. And
you have a natter with them?
Yes.
See, there are not many people in the rubbish business who put dinner jackets on every night, let's face it.
No.
You don't do it 365 days a year, do you? Leave it out. I think 3 months is enough.
You see, you've got the taste of reading. You'll be dressing when you get back to Romford. You're going to put the black tie on when you go down to dinner every night.
On a bike. Good, no, we don't do that. Well, the point is, if you go on a 3 months cruise and you've worked hard all your life, and your children say, look, Dad and Mum, you've done your share of work, away. You can afford to do it, have it, while you're alive.
On board, we're all rich in unworried hours. To offer new horizons to cruisers in winter and in summer service the North Atlantic ferry, the QE2 entered commercial life in 1969, a £30 million attempt to lure people back to a form of travel no longer indispensable. Since that maiden voyage, she's sloshed her 4 swimming pools round the world for more than 2 million miles. And Cunard caters carefully to cruisers because they've kept her afloat. Passengers on this ship enjoy far more attention than they used to. There's a member of the crew for every 2 of us, and most of those are concerned with our comfort. So we're thoroughly spoiled. Now, in this pampered, this lulling atmosphere, the one passenger who, without any question, receives the best attention of all, came aboard in New York, where he lives. He's doing the whole Pacific cruise from New York, 89 days, right back to New York. And during that time, he has the undivided attention of 2 members of the crew, who, in turn, look after his well-being 24 hours a day. He's known on board to his friends and acquaintances as Francis. Just to cross the Atlantic, a dog's fare is £120. All the way around the Pacific, it's a matter for negotiation. Cunard shipped a kennel maid when France's owners decided he must accompany them regardless of cost, and when she flew home, Anne came out to keep him entertained on his private deck, where the amenities include his personal lamppost. At sea and siesta time, eager amateur entertainers emerge. They're not at all fazed by an audience that's noticeably relaxed.
Now, in a tree is a kookaburra. You all know what a kookaburra is in Australia. It's one of our laughing birds. And he watches the scene and he goes, wow, wow, wow,
Yo te quiero, amar a niña mía, igual que me la flor, la luz del día. Amar say I'm gonna cry.
Nights in white satin, never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. Beaches I've always seen, never reaching the end.
For those out of tune with amateurs, the ship offers nightly professionalism.
Midnight, not a sound on the pavement, as the moon lost her memory, she's smiling alone. In the lamplight, the withered leaves collect at my feet, and the wind to mourn. Memory, all alone in the moonlight, I can smile at the old days. Life was beautiful then. I remember the time I knew what happiness was. Then the memory
Landlubbers may see only a ship of fools, but on board we bravely face up to new horizons and new partners, while Joe Loss orchestrates the escape. But some shamefaced passengers are tempted into far more sinful behaviour.
Is that for two? Is that all we get for two?
One each.
What have we got?
You've got the volcano there at the moment, it's flaming.
And it's ice cream inside?
Ice cream with meringue, lead, and a little eggshell on the top to hold the alcohol.
4 restaurants challenge cruisers to let their gastronomic imaginations rip and order anything they like. For the less imaginative, 3 long menus each day plus a midnight buffet. Hard tack it is not.
It's a bit miserly for 2, actually. I thought you could have done better than that.
So passengers fight a losing battle with buttons and zips, though some of the more susceptible surrender rather too easily.
Thank you. You swine.
However, the ship's loaded down with 25 tons of ice cream, so it is the duty of every responsible shipmate to try to help out.
I'm sorry to say it's delicious.
There's no doubt seafood does assume quite ridiculous significance, as it always has. Back in 1854, a passenger wrote, "On board ship, eating goes on with short interruptions from morning till night." Nothing has changed, and our eager 1400s set about masticating their money's worth, munching through every menu. After a few overindulgent days, most of us accept defeat, older and wiser and fatter, though every now and then some dauntless diner still asks for a second helping of chips.
No, I'll take some more. I said that whole
Now you've lost 4 stone, as I keep reading every time I open a paper.
4.5 now.
4.5?
It's dropping off by 11.
I hate you even more. I hate you. I hate you. No? So, I mean, the whole point of coming on a cruise is to eat 4 enormous meals a day, isn't it?
Indeed, and I find I've been dieting since last July, and it's hard at the moment when I've reached the kind of plateau.
So the new slimline Sir Harry Seacombe's on board, but like a good goon, eating and drinking against the tide.
I mean, this place is awash in alcohol as well. I mean, they have cocktail parties in the morning, and then cocktail parties before dinner, cocktail parties after dinner. I think, in my case, it was a shock. I went to see a doctor in Australia, just down the road here, and he said, if you keep this up, I'll give you 2 years at the most. So, with 3 grandchildren to support, I thought it's time I took heed.
Now, what about Lady Seacombe? She's not worried that you're going to succumb to the blandishments.
Harry succumbed? No. No, she's not worried. I really am committed to the thing now. Because after all, I've just brought a diet book out, and if I start putting on weight now, it's going to
You're going to look pretty silly, aren't you? Yeah, before and after.
Look at right Burke, yes.
You're the wrong way round. In fact, Harry, it's not a diet, is it? You've changed your life, really, because it's forever.
Yes, as a diabetic. It's a worse disease. I've got 2 worse diseases, diverticulitis and diabetes. You can't get the wood for the diseases. So I've got to, it's just a way of life. It's not a bad way. I mean, you don't. I mean, anybody on the diet I'm on now, any person who was underweight would put weight on. So it's not a starvation diet.
The other thing is that on this ship, if you have a normal life, not your kind of life, but a normal cruiser's life, you put on £1 a day.
Is that what they...
£1 a day. They say, we're on for 40 days now. Have you got any of your old suits you're not using?
Well, I think I better send you some out, hadn't I?
It's a terrible thought, isn't it? In fact, your tailor has done better out of your diet than anyone else.
He's booked for the next cruise. One of the big penthouse suites.
Overindulgence and remorse run in step. The popular way of saying sorry for eating too much is 5 laps round the boat deck, which is another mile of mortification under your belt.
I'm going to talk to you about what to do about arthritis, both to treat it and hopefully to prevent it. Find out whether you have inflammatory arthritis or non-inflammatory arthritis. Now remember, inflammation is more destructive, causes more crippling, and when you have inflammatory arthritis, you have to be more aggressive in your treatment.
Kangaroo, a koala.
If you're not into hypochondria, you can learn about antique furniture or graphology or needlework or how to speak a strange language.
Con mucho de mucho, tienen ansiedades, they have anxieties. Y con muchas ansiedades, with many anxieties, se pierden sus amistades, they lose their friendships.
Oh, that Spanish one, oh my God, don't quote me. Take me off the screen, but oh my dear, she doesn't know how to speak Spanish. She doesn't even know how to pronounce it. And there she is teaching people Spanish. It's ridiculous, just ridiculous. I know, I think some of that is just really should be eradicated, I really do.
Cabra, a goat, you have it, it's yours.
There are some critics, aren't there, who say at a time of unemployment, with 3 million out of work and depression everywhere, that it's wrong to be in a little oasis like this, floating around the world in total luxury, an example of conspicuous extravagance.
I'm on the QE2 now. Luxury, I suppose, but I know what it's like to sleep in a cell at home. I know what it's like to, for your overalls to get up and go to work before you because they were that bug-ridden, all this business. Those were the good old days. But I think I've earned my holidays. And what I've got, is my own. Nobody's given it to me. I've never been unemployed since I recovered from the accident. I've never been in the union. Because if anybody wants to go on a luxury cruise like this, the first thing they've got to do is to drop out of the union and start working for a living. This is my... Because I don't think sitting there and waiting for them, to do something to help you, it's no good. If you want anything in this world, you've got to go out and get it without hurting people. You don't have to hurt people to do it. Friends of mine who have a lot more wealth than I have. But they've trodden on too many people to get what they've got. I'm fortunate enough that I've still got friends. A lot of people get to the top and they've no friends. We have. I know that, but the amount of ruddy postcards that we're sending off, it's costing a fortune.
As this vast and profitable emporium cuts through the South Pacific at 25 knots, its customers may be floating, but they're not at sea. They know their way around, and having paid their considerable fares, need only put their hands into their pockets for drinks, shore excursions, and shopping.
99.59.
They're encouraged to spend, but cruisers are also advised how to accumulate.
And so if you put in $10,000, you can get a $10,000 write-off against your income, and that's a tax savings of $5,000. I hastened to add that I generally buy all three. I buy real estate every year, and I buy some oil and gas every year, and I also buy cattle. But it turns out that the cattle program, if you buy into that in the beginning of the year, you can get as much as a 250% write-off.
I suppose not everyone would think of buying cattle to save tax. So, should a Wall Street financial wizard start a useful train of thought, which could even help pay the fare, the matter can be pursued in the ship's library. Though some passengers, I was relieved to observe, were thinking of pleasure rather than profit and showing impeccable literary taste. For the more active, there's another traditional shipboard pursuit demanding a fearful intensity.
Yep. That shows a little progress.
You're on this cruise for 10 weeks.
Yes.
And you're doing this 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
You think you're getting the most out of the cruise?
Well, yeah, I spend a lot of time up on the deck, sure.
Yeah?
But, of course, I spend a lot of time here, but you get tired riding the deck up there all the time, you know.
Yes, yes.
But I enjoy working on it. And other people come by, and I suppose there's 8 or 10 people who work pretty regular on it.
Now, I mean, here we're going past that beautiful coast of the North Island of New Zealand, but you're really concentrating on something quite different.
That's right. I saw it, and I saw a nice volcano up there this morning.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Now back to business.
Back to work.
But if you're going on all these cruises, it does seem a hell of an expensive way to do a jigsaw. Couldn't you put this out in your back room at home and do it for nothing?
Yes, but I have no interest in it at home because I don't have time to mess with it.
With all the time in the world, the QE2 arrives at Wellington, most southerly port on her Pacific cruise, her officers back in their winter blues against the dawn chill.
Charlie, we've got to drop astern just a little.
Just here, that's it.
Slightly ahead of position.
We'll be all right as we are.
Yeah, we're in very good position right now, actually.
That's it, faster.
Bridge folks, are we still in position that I can turn up the spring, or do we need to drop astern any?
No, but you're still creeping ahead. You might not be able to hold her on the spring.
Yes, we want to come astern now by about 5 or 10 feet.
No weight on the head rope, Charlie. Just prepped ahead. We need to drop astern 5 feet. 5 feet astern.
As passengers prepared to tour New Zealand's capital, I asked Nigel Brokes about the future of his enormous holiday machine, which costs £140,000 every day to operate, or the price of this suite for this cruise. Could there be enough wealthy people in the world, I wondered, to keep such a ship profitable?
The ship fills from the top downwards. The marketing problem is with the middle and lower priced accommodation.
This goes first.
This goes first. We're aiming to fill the ship, and the marketing effort, which is quite an expensive matter, really is directed at the middle and lower accommodation because the luxury and the grand looks sells itself.
Sells itself. That's extraordinary, isn't it?
It is extraordinary, but even in a world depression like this, the very rich seem to continue to be very rich. There are plenty of them around.
A Maori group comes aboard to entertain passengers, some of whom are reaching the end of their journey. On a ship, farewells are always sad. You get a lump in your throat leaving places you don't even like. A dockside goodbye is a time of brave smiles and wet little hankies. In the institutionalized anxiety of an airport, a jet takeoff's an outgoing adventure without time for regret. But it's always a slow and melancholy parting when a ship is about to sail. Cruise liners are not mere transportation. Indeed, wealthy women once lived aboard. And this very special lady is a cocoon, a provider of fantasies. Also, if you will, a cabaret, a country club, health farm, casino, school, indeed, whatever background's required for an escape from reality. It's a lot to ask of any one place, but cruisers keep returning because, despite random shipboard absurdities, it is the last good game in town. In the evening sunlight, suitably escorted, the QE2 sets sail for Australia out across the Tasman Sea. While within the stately rhythm of her unhurried days, passengers and crew begin to understand each other's eccentricities. After all, we're all in the same boat.